I'm gonna wait a minute for people to start popping on. We're gonna do keto meatloaf and regular meatloaf. Looks like we got some people popping on. Okay, so I said earlier I was going to make a meatloaf. I'm gonna do a keto meatloaf, and I have a non-keto meatloaf that's coming out of the oven so you can see it, because I'm trying to make these quicker so you can see the end product and you don't have to come back later. Okay, so people say, isn't meatloaf keto? Well, no, it's not, because you've got a lot of sugars in ketchup, you have breadcrumbs or bread. Hey Russell, are you still doing keto? Give me a thumb, if you guys are on keto, give me a thumbs up. I wanna know who's on keto or trying to do keto. Keto meatloaf, watching you bake meatloaf. All right. Okay, so meatloaf is comfort food, and that's the kind of food I like to cook. I'm all about comfort food. So I make probably 15 different varieties of meatloaf, and they're all really good. Not to like brag or anything, but I make a mean meatloaf. So when I tried to do a ketogenic diet, of course I was like, how can I do a keto, really good tasting meatloaf? And when I say I did keto, I did like dirty keto. I'm not like so picky about every little thing, but you want to be careful. You don't want to have things add up. So let's get to the meat, right away to the meat. So what I do in my meatloaf is I like, oh good, Russell, you're still doing keto. How much have you lost? You know, that's another thing. You men doing keto, it's so irritating. I sacrificed all summer. I think we had 5 trips, and I did a food tour of San Diego, and I stayed on keto. I was perfect. And I lost the entire summer, I lost 30 pounds. That's it. You guys lose keto in like 2 weeks, 28 pounds in 2 weeks. It's so irritating. Anyway, so we're back to the meat. So I've got 3 meats in here. Now you can kind of vary these, but this is what I'm doing. I like to do a leaner meat. A lot of people on keto want to keep the meat in there. 18 pounds, geez, good for you, congrats. I don't like to bake meatloaf in a meatloaf pan. And the reason is, the fat kind of raises up and it kind of like boils, if you will, or braises in the fat in a meatloaf pan. So I like to put it on a baking sheet, form it, you know, it's kind of like your Play-Doh days. You get to make like whatever shape you want to do and bake it off in the oven. And I find that I like the texture of the meatloaf better versus it being in a pan where the fat has nowhere to go. Does that make sense? Okay. So I do a 90-10 beef. I'm going to do a leaner turkey, but not like super lean, just like a regular lean, you know, leanish turkey. And then I'm adding chorizo. Now, chorizo is one of those things that it's in there and you don't really notice it, but then you're like, this has a really different flavor. Let's see, apple cider vinegar, isogenic pro, okay, I don't know what you're talking about, Vinny, but good for you. So you could modify this and do an Italian sausage, you could do a spicy sauce, whatever you want to do, it just gives you something else going on. Hey Wendy, so to me, meatloaf is one of those things, of course it's comfort food, but it's kind of like, what do you have on hand? So I want to give you some ideas as I'm cooking this meatloaf to kind of inspire you to just, you don't have to have these ingredients, you can do other things. So I'm going to start with what I did before we got on camera. Here they are. I took an onion, chopped it up really small, almost pulverized it. And this is, again, I do this because I have kids that have really they don't like texture. So you don't have to do that. You could grate the onion if you have even more texture issues. But this is 1 onion and 4 large cloves of garlic that I actually put in a small saucepan and sauteed them down. I want to caramelize them. I'm not a fan of putting raw vegetables into my meatloaf. Why? When you roast or saute your vegetables, they get a nice caramelization on them. It brings out the sugars. Actually, if you're on keto, you probably know, caramelized onions, cooked onions, have more carbs than raw onions. You wonder why? Because the natural sugars are developed. Okay, so to this, I'm going to add this into my meat mixture. Okay, so that's 1 onion and about 4 cloves of garlic. You decide how much you want to put in there. Fresh parsley, if you only have dried, do dried. This is about 1/4 cup. Again, don't be so particular about how much of this and how much of that. Just do what you like. If there's something I'm adding you don't like, omit it. This is another mainstay for me. I love, these are freeze-dried green bell peppers. Now, I like these better in meatloaf than the real thing. I think because they're dehydrated, They don't, the texture's nicer. You get that flavor, but you don't get that texture. And you can easily do these in your dehydrator or buy them. I buy Penzeys. It's a store in Pittsburgh. Actually, they're in Washington, so wherever they are. So I add like a good 1/4 of a cup of these to it. It just adds, again, like a really nice flavor. If you don't like bell peppers, don't add green bell peppers. If you like red peppers or you like jalapenos, add those. Do what you like. Meatloaf is like a free-for-all. It really is. Express yourself, okay? So I don't want to over-mix my meat. That's another thing. You want that meat cold. You don't want it sitting out. You got to take your rings off if you're a girl. You want to get them all cleaned up. Let me get these off. To this, I'm going to add a little bit of this sauce. I'm doing an Italian-themed meatloaf tonight. So I'm going to add some of this Rao's. I talked about this last time. Very good pasta sauce. I'm also going to add tomato paste, and I'm also going to add garlic paste. Now these are things you can, you know, if you have a can at home, that's fine. If you want to make your own sauce, that's fine. If you want to do a sugar-free ketchup, that's fine too. Again, whatever you want. Salsa is great on meatloaf. I'm going to put just a little bit of the sauce in the meat. Why? Because I want to flavor the meat, okay? I'm also going to use Parmesan cheese instead of breadcrumbs. So if you saw my video earlier that kind of gave the recipe loosely of what I was going to do, you can, if you're on keto, go ahead and pulse pork rinds. I know it sounds so gross. Pulse them to a fine powder. It kind of acts with the eggs as a binder. If you're not on keto, give me a moment. This is what I put in my meatloaf. Ritz crackers. You guys, and these are bacon Ritz crackers. These make the best meatloaf ever. I don't know why. They're salty, they're buttery, the flavor's so great. I have one in the oven that's coming out that I can show you that is a non-keto that I made with the crackers. So if you're, you know, if you're not doing keto, do the crackers. All right, so then it'll fall over. So I'm going to go ahead and mix my onion, my garlic, my fresh parsley, all the meats together, a little bit of my sauce. I'm going to do about a 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. And I got to get my hands in here. And this is where it's gross. It's gross. Yuck. I don't like it, but you got to do it. You want to mix these meats really good. You want to also practice good food handling safety. This cutting board, this spoon, everything's going to go in the sink when I'm done. I don't want to cross-contaminate any of the other items I'm making. If you're not on keto, you could do a mashed potato, which would be so yummy with this. If you're on keto, you can do a cauliflower mashed potato, or just a cauliflower mash with like bacon and cheese, or whatever you like. You know, I'm going to do broccoli, probably a salad. We'll see. We'll see what everybody gets. So can you guys see down into the bowl? I'm just incorporating everything. Next is going to be my eggs. And I've got them pulled out already, 2 eggs. You should do them into a separate container because you don't want shells in there. I'm a professional, don't do this at home. Watch me put a shell in there. Okay, let me get rid of this. We're gonna mash that all up. All right. So like hamburger, when you're making hamburgers, you really shouldn't have any eggs or fillers in a hamburger. So essentially, meatloaf is like a little hamburger. I know we're kind of used to the fillers in them, like oatmeal and bread, but you don't really need them. That was used, the fillers were used to stretch meat. Back in the day when people really couldn't afford to eat meat, they put, meatloaf came into being popular because families needed to feed their family on a budget, and they could use a little bit of meat and some oatmeal or bread or whatever and stretch that meat and make a meatloaf. So if you are on a ketogenic diet, you don't have to feel like you're going to have a ruined meatloaf if you don't have the bread in there. It doesn't need it, just like a good hamburger. Good hamburgers don't need eggs, or they don't need anything, salt and pepper, right? All right, so I don't want to overwork this meat. I'm just going to make sure everything's incorporated and it looks pretty good. Doesn't have to be perfect. I've got to put my seasonings in here still, so let me wash my hands. I don't want to be touching bottles with meaty hands. That's gross. Give them a quick wash. I am a stickler about food safety. I really am. It just really freaks me out, people that don't pay attention to that and don't watch that. You get sick. I'm going to put some Italian seasoning in it. Any brand, whatever you have, fresh. Hey, Leon, good to see ya. I'm going to do, again, I'm eyeballing it. I'm going to do probably like 2 teaspoons of a good Italian blend. Oregano, thyme, parsley, whatever's in there. Basil. I'm using a spoon now because I don't want to get all like totally grody. I'm going to put a big good squirt of tomato paste in here. It just richens it up, the sauce. It riches it up inside. And I'm going to put, even though I have fresh garlic in here, I'm going to go ahead and use some garlic paste. Again, I like garlic, so it's up to you. Now, who uses Lea & Perrins? Worcestershire. Give me a thumbs up if you use Worcestershire sauce. This adds the level of umami that we want in our meatloaf. Now, what's umami? It's like when you bite into something, it's like, oh, this is so good. Umami, okay? It's salty, it's savory, it's got like sweet in it, all kinds of goodness in there, okay? Worcestershire. I don't know if this is keto, probably isn't. It's got a gram of carbs in it for 1 teaspoon. I mean, those things I don't sweat. 1 teaspoon or 2 teaspoons in an entire meatloaf, like you're getting such a small amount. I'm gonna put like 6 or 7 dashes in there. I want that good umami flavor. I'm gonna use some pink Himalayan sea salt, be generous. Your Parmesan cheese is salty, so don't go too salty. You can always salt it later. I'm gonna do some black pepper. And then I'm gonna be ready to start building this pizza keto meatloaf. I'm gonna show you what I do. Okay. I'm gonna have to play with this as I get it in here, but you get the idea. So we've got chorizo or Italian sausage, turkey, 90-10 ground beef, 2 eggs, about 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese, fresh parsley, 3 to 4 to 5 garlic cloves, whatever you like, a small to medium onion sauteed to kind of caramelize it. Worcestershire, gotta have the Worcestershire, definitely Italian seasoning. And then I have a little bit of this Ralph's sauce in here, okay? Pasta sauce. I'm gonna put a little bit more. And again, we're gonna add it to the top as well, but this just gives the flavor all throughout, okay? All right, next thing I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do a baking sheet. Whatever one you have, doesn't matter. Cover it with foil. It makes it a lot easier to clean. And I always buy that heavy duty industrial, the big boy. You want to cover your pan. It just makes cleanup so much easier. Because we talked earlier about why I like to do it on a baking sheet, because I don't want in a baking pan, in a loaf pan, when you put a meatloaf in there, it just sits in the oil. This way, it does kind of still sit on the oil. You can also, if you want to, you can make little, I take foil and make little like logs, if you will, and when I smoke it, that's how I get the smoke to circulate. You could also, if you're concerned about, you could put it on a rack if you want to. I'm good with it like this, it's fine. A little fat never hurt. All right, so we've got that going. Next thing I'm gonna get ready before I start handling my meat, I'm gonna put this over here. I'm gonna put some like fresh mozzarella. This is really soft. You can use any kind you have on hand. You can use cheddar, smoked Gouda. I mean, sky is the limit for the cheese. This is the most delicious cheese. It's from Trader Joe's. It's pre-sliced. I don't know if you guys can see it. I feel a sneeze coming on. Hey, Coach. Okay, let me peel this open. I have a couple tricks up my sleeve here that we're gonna do. And I want to get everything ready before I start touching the meat, because then your hands are just gross. Next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add some pepperoni, some salami, whatever you have at home. If you don't like it, don't add it. It's all good. This is boar's head. I got it. This is left over from my keto pizza. But whatever you have, I have both the smaller slices and then the bigger slices. Add whatever you like. Don't add it if you don't like it. Get rid of some of this stuff here. Alrighty. I'm going to add some more Parmesan cheese. I've got seasoning, and I need a spoon. Okay, so this is where you get to be, hi Carol! This is where you get to bring out your inner child. This is like Play-Doh time, romper room. Does anybody have key romper room music? What you want to do with your meatloaf is you want to take a good 2 or 3 scoops of it. I'm going to move this into the screen so you can see it. And I'm gonna take 3/4 of it out, about-ish. Okay, so you can see I've taken that out. I'm gonna set that aside. Can you guys see this in the screen? Put a thumbs up if you can see this in the screen. Again, I can't with all the Comments, I can't see it. Inner child mental health work, yes. Why am I so obsessed with food? Definitely goes back to my childhood. We'll have to talk about that, Carol. What, Coach? Hello, cooking with foil is not good for you. Okay, well, you don't have to cook with foil. You can do parchment. Parchment would be another thing you could do if you don't want to do foil. I'm all about easy cleanup. And if you're concerned about the foil, then definitely do parchment. Please turn those lights back on, Grace. Thank you so much. Okay, so what I'm doing here is I'm forming my little OCD, like meat boat, if you will. I don't know if you guys can see down there, but I will hold it up. What I'm trying to do is I'm building kind of like a little dam, if you will, in the middle. And it's going to have sides to it. And I want it to be kind of even, the meat thickness to be level all the way around. All right? Let me just kind of, let me hold that up. Can you see it? Get it? Thumbs up? Okay. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to get a paper towel so I don't have to, I feel like I want to have like gloves. All right. I don't want to touch this jar, so let me get another. I'm touching everything with paper towels because I don't want to touch anything. The next thing I'm going to put on there is pesto. Yum. If you don't like pesto, don't add it. But it's a fun surprise in the middle of the meatloaf. So I'm going to take a layer of pesto. My buzzer's going for my other meatloaf. I'm going to take this pesto and I'm just going to smooth it out on the bottom. So when you cut this open, you're going to see this beautiful layer of pesto. And I have layers of cheese coming up. It's going to be so great. Give me a second. I'm going to pull out my meatloaf that I have in here already cooking. And I'm actually going to test it. So what you want to do, you're looking for 165. If you don't already have a meat thermometer, this is a ThermaPen. You can get them on Amazon. Best investment you'll ever make if you like to barbecue, if you like meat. They're about $100-ish. There's a smaller one too you can get. It's a little less. I'm going to test it. You want it to be at 165, and it is. Okay, so I'm going to pull it out. I'll let you guys see that in a minute. Just turn that timer off. So I made a non-keto meatloaf to cut open. Okay, so to recap, I've got my pesto in my little in my meat boat in there. Next, I'm gonna layer this beautiful mozzarella. And I'm gonna use the whole thing so I'm not too concerned about dirty fingers in here. And they come in little slices like this. You could do grated, you could do whatever you want. You just wanna fill it up so that when you cut it, it just oozes cheese. So delicious. Bless you. Okay. There we go. I'm going to add more. You want it to be like cheese love when you open this sucker up. You make this for your guests, they're going to be like, what the heck? Cheese, cheese, cheese. All right. Can you see? So I've got a layer of pesto. I've got a thick layer of like fresh buffalo mozzarella cheese. I'm going to take the rest of my meat. Where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Oh, I got my pepperoni. I almost forgot the pepperoni. So again, you're going to layer this on here. Add as much or as little. Doesn't matter. It's totally up to you. And I'm just going to kind of overlap it. So again, every piece is going to have that burger layer, the meatloaf layer, the pepperoni layer, the creamy cheese layer, and the pesto layer. And of course, the top is going to have sauce on it. So it's going to be so pretty. All right, so with the last bit of my meatloaf mixture, I'm just going to make sure it's all mixed up really good. All right. I'm going to take it, and I'm making a lid, okay? So I want to kind of flatten it as much as I can before I get it on here because this thing is gargantuan. All right, so you can see, can you see down here what I'm doing? Let me get rid of this so there's more space. Get rid of all this stuff. Better to have more room so you guys can see what I'm doing. Here we go. Gets crowded quickly. All right, so I'm just gonna form this meatloaf. I'm gonna kind of pinch the corners. I'm gonna firm it up. See how big it is? This sucker's huge. And you could do smaller ones. You could do 2 smaller, but I like the bigger ones, and then I just have it for leftovers. It's all good. Okay, so I'm just kind of firming it up. I'm using my hands to shape it. Get my Zumba. Okay, let me wash my hands. A lot of washing hands here. Now I'm going to make the sauce. Now I got a couple things to say about sauce. There are so many ways to make a delicious sauce. So many. It just depends, again, what you're into, what you like. Make a clean bowl to mix it in. My favorite thing to add to meatloaf, hi John, it is huge. I like to add honey. I know it's a total no-no if you're on keto, so don't do that if you're on keto. But honey in meatloaf, I know it sounds strange, but it is amazing. So what I would normally do, and I just brought some different things out that I like to use, and I'll kind of bring them on camera and talk about it, because I want to inspire you if you're not doing keto, if you want to do something different. There is a no sugar ketchup, okay? So you can do ketchup. I think meatloaf has to have a tomato-based sauce. I don't want brown gravy on mine. I think that's abomination. That's just me. If you want brown gravy, do brown gravy. Completely up to you. But ketchup base, to me, is the way to go. You can make your own. There's tons of recipes on there. It's stevia, onion powder, paprika, garlic, apple cider vinegar. It's very simple. Dry mustard. It's very simple to make if you want to make your own. Trader Joe's is somebody that has a ketchup that has sugar in it, but it's very low carb. It's like 3 carbs, I think, for a tablespoon. Again, it's very low, so it just depends on how serious you are. But this one is no sugar added completely. So there are, there's 1 carb in 1 tablespoon of this. It's probably through, I don't know what's in here. It's tomato, salt. I'm trying to see what the sucralose. So it's Splenda. Ugh, I hate Splenda. Anyway, so do whatever works for you. Hey Margie, thank you for watching. So I'm gonna make the sauce for this. Basically what I'm doing is I'm making more of a pizza sauce, if you will. I have the pasta sauce with me, and so I'm just gonna thicken it up with some tomato paste and some garlic. And I'm gonna put a little Worcestershire in it, just again for that umami. So you're just gonna pour some in a bowl, and this is chunky. If you don't like chunky, just do puree, do the tomato ketchup, whatever. Do whatever suits you. I'm gonna put another really generous dollop of tomato paste, because you want this thick. You want that tomato sauce topping to kind of brulee on the top, and it gets sweet and delicious. I'm gonna add some of this garlic paste. If you don't have the garlic paste, use garlic powder, whatever works, okay? Again, I'm gonna be generous because I like garlic. If you don't like it, don't like it. There's a little bit left of my pesto. I'm actually gonna add that. That's gonna add a nice level of that basil, so delicious. Okay, I'm gonna put a squirt of my Leanne Perrins, maybe 2 or 3. And I'm thinking, oh, I want pepper for sure. There's already salt in here, so I don't want to salt it. You could add red pepper flake if you like that. Hey, Marty. Oh, yeah, I'm wearing shoes. I'm wearing flip-flops. Here, get my leg up, light up. There you go. Yeah, I had an accident. That was not pretty. Although shoes probably wouldn't have saved me. I mean, it was the most bizarre thing. I have really, like, my floors that I installed are really hard. I did a tile wood, and I did that because, you know, in the kitchen, I've had enough floods in my house that I don't want to deal with that again. And I just thought that would be the best thing, but this glass container fell out and a piece just shot into the side of my foot. So I don't know that shoes would have really helped me. It wasn't on the bottom of my foot. All right, so I'm gonna put this lovely tomato sauce on here. Just let it ooze all down the sides. So again, it was that Rouse, the arrabbiata, whatever you like. It's got some olives in it, and this is hot. This is spicy. This has red pepper flake in it, so it is spicy. If you don't like spicy, don't do spicy. I did a little bit of prepared pesto, a little bit of the Leanne Perrins Worcestershire. What else did I do? Pepper, a squirt of tomato paste, a squirt of garlic paste. Bada boom, bada bing. It's ready to go in. You're going to put it at 350 for about 45 minutes. The internal temperature needs to be 165, okay? So again, if you do not have a meat thermometer, quit worrying about how long something needs to be in the oven. What you need to be concerned about is what is the temperature. If you're talking about food safety, especially ground meat, we need to be sure that it says what it says, okay? And these are reliable. That's why I like this Thermapen brand. These are like die-hard reliable. So this is ready to go in. I'm gonna put this in over here. I want to talk about my favorite topping, the topping that I did on this one. Can you read that? Do you know what that says? It says roasted garlic and onion jam. Shut the front door. So I take ketchup and this roasted garlic onion jam. I take some Liam Perrins again. What I put in? I usually put in like a Greek seasoning or some kind of all-purpose seasoning into it. I do put a little bit of more honey into it. Definitely garlic paste, dry mustard, and pepper. I think that's what I usually use. It's amazing. The roasted garlic is sweet and there's that jamminess to it. I'm adding the Liam Perrins, so it adds that salt. It's so delicious. People are always like, what the heck is this? One more I want to share with you. Actually, two more toppings. So again, if you're doing keto and you like Southwestern, you could easily adapt this to do like a cheddar cheese on the inside or a smoked Gouda. You could do a salsa on the top, just like I did a pasta sauce. So I like this organic, fire roasted, but you get whatever you like. Garlic, everything, yes. So I like this. Again, I would thicken it up with tomato paste. I just feel like it needs that, and probably some more garlic, and definitely adding that umami flavor with your Liam Perrins. If you like to kick it up a notch, this chipotle sauce is so delicious. This is like the stuff in the can, but you don't have to open up the whole can. And this is great if you like heat. And then one of my other favorites is hoisin sauce. This makes amazing meatloaf topping. Same idea. You could just add it into what I told you with the jam, or just do a tomato base with some of this hoisin, or just do this alone, add a little bit more soy so you get that salty sweet. You're trying to get a balance. You don't want it to be too sweet, you don't want it to be too salty, but I like the topping to lean on the sweeter side because the meat is salty and savory. So it gives you that kind of unexpected, when you bite into it, it's like sweet, salty, savory, umami. Okay, so hoisin sauce. If you're not familiar with that, when you go to eat soups, a lot of times you'll get this in the Japanese restaurants and the Asian restaurants. The pho restaurants have that. Okay. Any questions? I'm going to cut into this meatloaf. Hopefully it will behave. I'm going to try and move all this gobbledygook out of the way and not burn myself. Let's see if this is hot. I just want to cut into this and hopefully it's going to behave. Who knows? Could be like a bad child. But this one I did a traditional meatloaf. And so hopefully, can you see the cheese oozing out of it? Put a thumbs up if you can see the cheese. Hopefully you can. I'll do another piece. It's so pretty. Ooh, I'm flicking it everywhere. The cheese just oozes out and it's so good. Having something stuffed on the inside is just unexpected. Not everybody expects that. Where do you buy the garlic jam? This one is from Trader Joe's. This one is from Trader Joe's. It's their brand. And it's so good. This is so good in so many recipes. I'm totally about a hack. This is like a great hack. You can make this. This is very easy to make. It's just time consuming. And who has time to be sitting there making jam? I don't know, not me. If you're making it, great. Can I buy some from you? I want to buy it. So again, if you have any questions about the meatloaf, I'm going to put this on the YouTube channel. If you wouldn't mind subscribing to my Foodie Princess YouTube channel. They're all going to go over there so you can find them later. The chicken piccata that I made, the pasta sauce, every recipe is going to end there. Okay? All right, guys, I'm going to dig in. I'm hungry. I hope you guys are having a great night.